Okay. All right. So, welcome to night 2, DES-240, Info Design. Last night we talked a little bit about our discussion and infographics or information design in general. And I also gave you my assessment of what your assignment should be. So I hope that everybody understands that much. What I'm going to be concentrating on tonight are two things. The assessment, which will be creating an infographic from a template, and I'm going to show you how to go about doing that first, and then after I get done with that, I'm going to spend the rest of the time goofing around in Adobe Illustrator, so showing you a number of things that makes Adobe Illustrator the wonderful application that it is. Hopefully, by doing this, you'll get excited about the program and maybe want to explore it more and learn more about it. I find it to be a really terrific program, and I hope to make you feel the same way about it by the time we're done. So let me get started. Let me shut this off first of all. All right. And let's talk a little bit about this week's assessment, which is creating an infographic from a template. So we talked about it last night. We talked about templates, and templates essentially, well, let's put it this way. In the discussion, we talked about infographics from a template, and we talked about the fact that there are some pros and cons to it. And the pros are that if you're working with a limited budget, you don't have a lot of skill or time to work with, you probably will find that creating infographics from a template are a good way to go about doing that. And we looked a little bit at PowerPoint. I showed you a couple of the templates that could be made in PowerPoint very easily. And I didn't bother going into a great deal of a discussion about that, because my feeling is we probably should be focusing most on Illustrator. It's a much more relevant program for us to learn how to do this work in, so I wanted to focus on that. But I just wanted to quickly show you that PowerPoint's also an option. And in the discussion, and I think maybe in here, let me see if I'm mistaken on that. Hold on, let me just scroll down here. Well, you can find some free options here. That's it, creativeblog.com, Infographic Tools. There it is. So basically, this link will bring you to a site that discusses some of the infographic tools that are available to you. I really don't get involved in talking about this very much. I'm going to pretty much leave that up to you to talk about or to look at and to explore, because to be truthful with you, I would much prefer you learn how to work with Adobe Illustrator to create these infographics. I'd like you to learn there, because you're going to find that you're going to be using Illustrator an awful lot, and Illustrator is an incredible program. And even though it doesn't do the best job of creating an infographic template, it's very simple for you to take that template and start modifying that template and turning it into something that's unique and wonderful. And I'm going to show you a demonstration of that shortly. So let me just go back up here and let me walk through this a little bit. So define and apply the appropriate use of an infographic template. That's what we're doing tonight. Using a template to create an infographic still leaves the designer with some critical decisions. The overall layout design, the icons or images, colors, fonts, graphs you choose will greatly impact the message and the successful telling of the story. The thing that you have to understand about using templates in Adobe Illustrator is they come out initially a little bit on the bland side. I mean, everything's kind of black and white and gray, and they use very basic typeface, and the layouts are very illogical. So they're more or less just, they pop the information up for you and kind of put you in a position where you have to figure out how to modify everything to get it where you want it, which again leads you into a little bit of customization, which in my opinion is a good thing. All you have to do is figure out how to do it. Once you know how to do it, you know, you should be good to go. As always, think of your audience. What is the best way to catch and hold their attention? Well, obviously, you know, doing something that's interesting and visually exciting and not dull is going to grab their attention, at least for a while. Advertisers often refer to the hook, something that triggers an emotional response in the audience and makes a connection that gets them hooked. If you can find some way of incorporating a hook into the data or visualization of your infographic, great. I definitely recommend that's what you do. Visual information also needs to have that hook to be effective. The placement and size of that visual hook becomes important. For example, placing it in the center for emphasis or at the end as a reward makes it more effective as a story. If a joke starts out with a punchline, then what is the use of the beginning? There are different options for visualizing research numbers, and each can be presented in a creative and captivating way. You can use pie charts, but numerical values are better in unique bar graphs. If numbers don't fit a consistent scale, using symbols to qualify the number in a diagram may be clearer and a more interesting option. Carefully consider the options and choices of the template makes it more unique and will let your skills as a designer shine through. I think the important thing to take away from that part of the statement basically is when you get data given to you, and in a second I'm going to get to this point down here where I discuss for this assignment, I'm going to be your client, I want you to make me an infographic on the use of visual data infographics using a template of your choice. Use the data presented in the discussion background also listed here, or download a DCX file here. This is the file that you're actually going to use to create this document. Now, I downloaded that, and what I did to mine was I highlighted some of the key information that I'm going to use in my actual chart area. This is going to be used as a title, and this is going to be used as some support elements that go after my chart. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is I could probably pull this off by either making it as a pie chart or a graph. And this information would work either way. I probably will use a pie chart on this particular information, but I may actually convert it to a graph just to show you how to go about doing that. Okay, so in a few minutes I'm going to do this, but let me just quickly get back to this. So for the assessment, I'm going to be your client. I want you to make me an infographic on the use of visual data infographics using a template of your choice. So in other words, you can go in and you can modify this using whatever type of template that you want. And if you look over here, Illustrator's not officially open, but you can see that I have my templates out. I'll show you how I did this. These are the different templates that are available to us. And again, this is in Adobe Illustrator right there, okay? All right, so here's the information, and you can see it's the same information, basically, that I have in my document up here, okay? From the research you did in the discussion, find a template that works for the data and customize it to fit your purpose. You can find some free options, and again, here's your link to this. I certainly would not use any of these. I don't care if you do, but I certainly would not use them. I am going to work entirely in Adobe Illustrator. I'm not going to say that you absolutely have to work in Illustrator, but I will put it to you this way. Common sense should tell you that since you're in a school that's teaching you Adobe products, and I will tell you this, probably you're going to find the greatest number or the greatest amount of flexibility from a creative standpoint by creating this in Adobe Illustrator. So I would recommend that you do it in Illustrator. I'm going to demonstrate in Illustrator. I'm not even going to show these other things because, again, I would prefer you guys actually learn and use Illustrator. I think it's well worth it. You need to include all the data in the infographic, which, again, is not that big of a deal. Add a headline for the infographic, your choice. Choose appropriate chart and or graphs to accurately relay the information. Choose any iconographic appropriate to fit the content. So in other words, these are just basic requirements telling you the kind of things that you should be doing. Okay, and none of them are really that difficult because they're all things that you'll see me do, and they're all logical because the data's here. I mean, here is my headline. Okay, here is actually my data, and here is some support copy that I'm going to use. So it's really simple to do this. It's not going to be too much trouble for you to handle this. Some things to keep in mind. Pick the appropriate data visualization for your information. How does the template fit with your message? Consider the takeaway first. What should the audience learn from the infographic? Create an engaging headline. Proposing a question that your infographic will help answer will immediately spark interest. Give the most important information the most visual weight. Hierarchy is always important when you do design work. And you'll see how that works out. So the viewer knows what to take away. Consider your font and color choices. These are part of your creative input to your graphic. When you take a look at a template and what the template comes out to be, you're going to see that it is kind of bland. And that's where you have to take the next logical step, which is to see what you can do to dress up your graphic. I got a great demonstration of that coming up. You'll see it very shortly. Now, one thing they say here is keep the palette simple and relevant. That's great advice. Simple is good. It's always good. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, as far as the requirements are concerned, depending upon the service you choose, you will be given different options for files, most likely a JPEG, PNG, or PDF. If it does not offer any file download options, you may submit a link to the completed design or take a screenshot. You know what? These things here don't matter very much if you stay with Adobe Illustrator, because Adobe Illustrator lets you save your file as a PDF, as a JPEG, or as a PNG file. So my recommendation really is for you to work in Adobe Illustrator for two reasons. Number one, because I think it's the best way for you to go. It's the most logical way for you to go. And number two, it's what I'm going to be working in. So if you're going to take a look at my demonstration, and if my demonstration is going to help you, the only way it's going to help you is if you follow along in Adobe Illustrator, okay? So submit a file, and there's your name and whatnot. Provide a reference link to the template service. Again, that doesn't matter if you're not doing it. Please proceed. Okay, so that's it. That's basically it. You're going to upload a file. My recommendation is either a JPEG, PNG, or a PDF. If you want, before I'm done tonight, if I have the time, I'll show you how to do each one of them. Okay? That's basically it. There's nobody here, so I really can't ask if there's any questions at this point. I hope that there aren't any. If you guys have any trouble, you can send me an email, give me a call, or Thursday night, come and see me in Blackboard. My hours have been listed in the announcements. Okay? So let me back out of here, and let me come into Adobe Illustrator. And before I actually do the assignment, which is this guy right here, what I do want to do very quickly is I want to go here, and I want to show you something. All right, now I'm going to also open this up here. This is the bar graph. Okay, so this is that bar graph right there. Check it out. That's the bar graph. Okay, that's the same bar graph, and this is my bar graph. Take a look at the difference. Let me do this. Let me come over here to my layers panel, and let me hide that layer so you can now just see that graphic all by itself. Now check this out. This is what the original bar graph looks like right here. Okay, that's it. Look at mine. I just want you to take a look at mine and see how different mine is. I mean, I started out with something that was very close to what you see here, okay? And I actually took it and I modified it significantly, making this thing look completely different than this. That's primarily what we're talking about here. I'm going to show you how to do this way. I'm going to show you how you can approach creating something like this, all right? I'm going to start off simple, and I'm going to start off with the graphic that you have to produce. The reason that I'm doing that is so that you actually see me produce my version of that graphic, which will give you some ideas as to how you can go ahead and approach creating yours. But I did want to show you this because this is one of the graphics that came from the site. This is one of the graphics that came from the site that we're working on. And I took this information and I input the information into Adobe Illustrator, making a bar graph similar to this, and then I customized my bar graph, and I just want you to quickly compare mine, look at mine, and look at the original. Okay? Both of them give the same basic information. They're primarily the same basic information, but look at the difference between the two. That's the whole point. When you come and customize something, you make it your own. That's, in fact, what I did with this. I made it my own. And that's what we're all about doing here. Okay? So we'll get back to this. But for now, let me go into my assignment 1 start. And I'm going to bring this over like this so I can see my information. I want to get my information to where I can see it. Okay? And I'm having a little bit of trouble doing that. Let me get me set up here. I'm going to do this maybe. Maybe I can make this thing easier by making it smaller. Let's go to 10 point. There we go. That's much better. I think I can probably pull it off now. I can almost pull it off. I'm still having a little bit of trouble with it. Actually, I can do this. Yeah, I can move it over because I have my tools over here. All right, so there's my data. This is my data. This is the assignment. This is what you're actually working on. So the first thing to consider here is, what is the type of chart you want to create? Well, to be honest with you, I don't see any problem turning this into a bar chart, a pie chart, or a bar graph. So this is your column graph. I'm sorry, it's column graph. This is a column graph. This would be no trouble with the information you see here. No trouble turning this into a column graph. No trouble turning it into a bar graph. And no trouble turning it into a pie graph. Personally, I think probably the pie graph is the graph that I would like to use on this, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to try to change it and see what happens when I do. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab the pie chart tool right here, right? Pie chart tool. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag myself out a space about like that. And what I get basically is this. I get my graphic. Hi, Melissa. How you doing?
Well, I'm really stressed out. I've been spending about 10 minutes trying to get in this class.
What happened?
I don't know. I go through the live session link and it won't work. I have to go to the Zoom app and put in that phone number, and then it'll let me join the meeting.
All right, I'll have to look at that later on. I'm sorry that you ran into that problem. I don't know exactly. Did you come in that way last night?
Yes, I did.
So it worked last night. It's not working tonight.
No. I came in the same way I did tonight.
Oh. Okay. Huh. I'll have to check that out and see what the deal is with it.
It could be my Mac. I rebooted it, but it still did the same thing.
I'll be darned. All right, well, let me see what I can do about it. If I have to, I'll send everybody an email telling them to use my my number to come in as opposed to that link. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to have to do to fix it. I'll contact my associate dean to find out what they can do for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I just basically started off by talking about what we're going to do tonight. The assignment is right here. I mean, you download this. You'll see if you watch the beginning before you came in. I'm right at the point now where I'm going to start inputting the data for my chart. So this is the assignment. I decided, I was showing you some other things that I did, and if I have the time after I get done fooling around with this tonight, I'll go in and I'll do some more stuff with the other stuff that I was showing earlier. But I thought, since this is the actual assignment, I thought the best thing to do would be to spend some time working on this, all right? So that's essentially what I'm doing.
All right. I'll pay attention.
So, go ahead.
I was just saying I'm ready and I'd pay attention.
Okay. So anyway, this should look a little familiar to you because we did fool around with this last night, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
And you saw this, so you got a little bit of an idea of what to do with this now, right?
Yeah, that's where you got to make sure you hit the right column and put the
That's right. So right now I got 1, and 1 is in the wrong column, so I'm going to backspace that to delete it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down to the, not the top one, but the first one down. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my data, and I'm going to select this first line of data, and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to paste it. Control V, and I pasted that data in there. Okay? Now what this is going to do, what this should do in my pie chart, is that should tuck that data right under there, okay? So,
yeah.
now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to select my first, my top row first, or I shouldn't say my first, but my second frame. And I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this thing say information transmitted to the brain is visual. That's the data that I think I'm going to use here. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that into there. Control V. Now, I have to make that a capital I because it doesn't look good as a lowercase I. So I make that little fix. So now I have information set into that first frame. Okay? You with me so far?
Yes, I am. I had to hit my mute button.
No problem. People respond more to visual information than text. So I'm going to select that, copy it, and I'm going to paste that into the next frame, Control V. And then I would like to make that capital P. So again, this is not difficult to do. You just select it, make it a capital P, and then I select the next little frame. And communication will be visual by 2018. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that into that frame right there by going Control V. And then I'm going to make that a capital C. Capital C. Okay, so far so good?
Yes, sir.
All right, now this one here, infographic design increases by 1% each day. I'm going to copy that whole thing, and I'm going to paste that whole thing in there, Control V. Oops, hold on, Control V. Oh, I didn't get the whole thing, Control Z. Hold on, I guess somehow or other I messed this up. Let me get this again. Copy, let's try it again. Oh, this one here. Cut. There we go. Somehow or other I managed to mess that up. There we go. Okay. Now, I want to get rid of the 1% because the 1% is actually going to be my data point. So what I really want this thing to say is infographic design increases by each day. Or I should just say actually increases each day. And then the percentage will be 1%. Or let's see, increase. Infographic design increase each day. That's probably even better. INCREASE. Do you understand what I'm doing? I'm trying to set the type up so that it makes sense based on the number selection. So the increase in infographic design each day is 1%. That's what that's saying. So does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So now we have our title, or the element that we're going to ultimately end up using as the title, and then these are going to be our identifiers for our samples. Okay, and now the next thing that we have to do is we have to input our data. So the information data, the very first one, we're going to input 90 because that is the number for that one, 90. And then I'm going to come over to the next one, which is going to end up being 40. Okay, the next one is going to be 84, 84. And then the next one, the last one, is 1. Okay, now, the reason that I'm doing this for you is because, to tell you the truth, whether you use a bar graph or a column graph or a pie chart, the way you input this data is largely the same. It's pretty much the same input of data to get you your basic graph, okay? So I might as well show you how to do it, because you're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. Because number one, the assignment is to use this statistics on visual data sheet. You understand that? You're going to be doing the same thing I'm doing here because this is the copy that you're going to be using. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very important that you understand that you're going to be using the basic data that I'm using right here. You're going to create a basic chart or graph, whatever one you want to go with, and then you're going to customize it. The next thing I do after I create my basic graph or chart, in this case pie chart, is to customize it. So now I'm going to click on this apply button, and that applies all of my data, and that is what it all looks like. That looks familiar to you, right? Because that's what we had last night, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you got any questions about this whatsoever?
No, I just got to make sure that I remember to hit the right column.
Well, you've seen it now several times. Do you know the basic organization of this thing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just keep that in mind, that, you know, this is the basic organization, and what you end up with is, there's your statistics. There it is right there. There's your statistic element. The information, people, community, and infographics right here. Infographic, communications, people, information. That's what that generates right there. And then the numbers, 90, 40, 84, and 1, that generates your pie. And it also gives you these coordinating rectangles. So now you've got the basic elements for your template. That's the whole key to this. All right?
Yes, sir.
Now, there is your template. That is the beginning of the process. Let me drag this thing over and get it on the page as best I can. Now, the problem with this is it's all over the place. It is not laid out and organized very well. It lacks a good color scheme, and the fonts are very inadequate. So there's a lot of things that need to be done with this. That falls into the category of you customizing your piece. This is your basic template. If you wanted to submit a basic template, this would be what you would submit. As you can see, it's very inadequate. Now, the important thing to understand about this is that it's a grouped object. See, everything is grouped together. Do you see that? Every time you click this, everything selects. It's all grouped together. This is grouped together essentially in a very special way. It's grouped together so I can do this. When I select this, I can come over here and I can go back to my type, my data, or my design, and I can modify this. So if I wanted to modify the data while this is selected, I click data, and my data panel comes back up, and I can go in and I can modify my data. Now, I don't have to modify my data because I got my data in there correctly, but I did want to show you this. I want you to get some idea of how this works. So you're clear on that?
Yes, I am.
And you can come in here, and just like this, you can go type, and you can click on the type, and you can come in here and you can change the type. And if I hit OK, I don't know how well this is going to work, but there, I've just changed the type. You see that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And I can come in here, I can go type again, and I can try this one and hit OK. And there's my second type. And both of these are OK. But as I say, I think I personally would prefer the pie chart. So once again, I'll come in here and go to type. And really, I'm only doing this just so that I do it a couple of times so that, you know, you're comfortable understanding how this works a little bit. I'm going to go back to my pie and hit OK. And now I got my pie back. Okay? So this is your template. We are still in a position where we can edit this template a little bit more. Okay? But let me explain one thing to you very carefully. Let me bring this down to the bottom. You're familiar with type, right? Regular old type. Here's type. Let me make this big. Let me go in here and make this big. let's go to, let's make it 72 points so I can really see this. Okay, so there's some type. Now, when you create type, you see how type is presented to you? There's a line underneath it.
Yes.
Okay, that's what's known as live type. When you have live type, you can change the font, you can change the font weight, you can change the leading, you can change the size. There's all sorts of things that you can do. Once you get to the point, though, where you have got your type exactly the way you want it, you can turn that type into outlines. Do you know what outlines are?
Yes. That's
It's a way of breaking apart the font and turning the font into graphic shapes. Okay? All right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. You didn't hear me, did you?
No.
Yes,
it's okay.
I did. I actually answered you saying outlines at the same time.
Yeah. So here, if I go to the type menu and I go create outlines, boom, there, I just did it, you see? So essentially, this is no longer active type. I can't do things like change the font. I can't change the weight. I can't change the line height. I can't change many of the font.
You shouldn't even be able to tell what kind of font it is now either, could you?
No, I can't tell what type of font it is because it's no longer active font. Now they're just basically shapes. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, because you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why do you even bother showing me this? Somebody is, I'm sure. The reason I'm doing this, I'm going to delete this, is because this infographic right now is basically very much like type. It's wrapped in this protective group that enables me to go in and access, because it's still active as a live chart object. I can come in here and I can go back into type and I can change the type. Okay, I'm going to cancel. And I can change the data. Come in here and I can change the data, right? Because it is still a template. It's still a live graph template.
Sorry.
If I want to turn this into a regular bunch of graphics, I can go in and I can go Object Ungroup. Now watch what happens. I'm going to go Object Ungroup, and I get this little notice. The selection contains a graph. After a graph is ungrouped, you will no longer be able to access its graph style, its data, or change its graph designs. So why I showed you the font and the outlines is because even though this is a completely different animal, the same sort of thing applies here. As soon as I go in and go ungroup this thing, this happens right here. And this is no longer a live graph object. So I'm going to hit no for now because I want to do that in a minute. I don't want to do that just yet. The important thing for me to show you is before I go to the trouble of ungrouping this thing and breaking it apart as a graph object, there's something that you need to know. Even though that this is a graph object, I can still go in here and I can move these elements around and I can change these elements. I can do it like this by coming over here and getting my group selection tool and my direct selection tool. And if I come over here and if I grab my group selection tool, for instance, let me move this over to here. There's my group selection tool. I can come over here and I can click on the statistics on visual data and infographics, and I can drag that up to here. Now, this is still, watch what happens. This is still, see, look, data, type, and design. This is still a live graphic, a live
live type.
Yep. No, well, not live type, but a live graph. That's still a live graph. So I can do some changes to this. There's some changes I can't do. So the reason that I'm going to this trouble right now is because before I break it apart and start working on it, I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do to this. Like right now, you can see I'm making my headline a lot bigger. Okay, there, I'm making this headline nice and big, and I'm going to move that headline, try to get it almost centered. I probably want to even make it a little bit bigger. So let's go up and make it a little bit bigger if we can. That's probably pretty good right there. And I think what I want to do is I want to make that thing black or bold. There we go. Bold is fine. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to change this from auto to optical. And I think what I want to do is, I don't think I will track it. I think I'll leave it alone. Okay, so can you see how much different this looks now? I've actually gone in here, and without tearing this thing apart in a radical way, I've been able to go up and establish a headline from the information that was originally down there. Okay?
Yeah.
Now what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to select the group selection tool, and I'm going to select this whole object right here, and I'm going to move that object until I get it about where I want it, which would be good right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to move this object down over to here. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to make it 80%, and I'll hit OK. So now I have that set to 80%. I've changed the size of it and the position of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here again with my group selection tool, and I'm going to select all that text right there, and I'm going to move that text over a little bit so that it is not so close to that right there. Okay? And then what I will do is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font in here. So I go to the character panel, and this is Myriad Pro. What I want to do is I want to go to Myriad Pro Condensed Bold. So I want bold condensed, and then what I want to do with this is I want to make it 24. Let's make it 24 point, and let's again set this to be optical, and let's track this out a little bit. Let's make it like 10, and let's see what that looks like. I think that reads quite a bit better. What do you think? You good with that? And maybe what I'll do with this is I will just take this thing, and maybe I'll move it up just a tiny bit, just like that. That's probably good right there. And I think we're looking pretty good. Okay, so what I can do is I can also come in here. Here's my swatches. Let me bring my swatches out here. Now I have just the general flow of color in here. What I would probably do in reality if I was creating a real infographic would be that I would use color that I would pick. I would pick my own color. But for this exercise, I think the colors that are in here will probably be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here with the group selection tool, and I'm going to start off by clicking on the black. I'm going to hold the shift. Actually, you know what I want to do first? I think I want to get rid of those strokes. There's strokes on all this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those graphic shapes. All of those graphic shapes. That's the only thing. Let's see. Is it on the visual? No, it's not. Okay. It's only on the graphic shapes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the stroke forward, and I'm going to put none on it. So now there is no stroke. See? They're just basically color shapes. Okay?
Yes.
I'm going to get my group selection tool. I'm going to click here, hold the shift key down, click here, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start applying colors. I have no idea what kind of colors I'm going to use. Let's see what kind of colors. Information. Whoops. I can't get this thing to move. Close it off. There we go. Transmitted to the brain. What color would I want that to be? Maybe I'll go with that blue right there. Oh, guess what I did? I screwed up. I'm going to reverse that, and then I'm going to remove the stroke, and I'm going to bring the fill forward. I want to put fills in here. I don't want to put strokes in. So I had to change that. My fault, really. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is people respond more to visual information than text, so I'm going to click on that, hold the shift key down, click on this. Now, again, the important thing to keep in mind is this. Watch. If I click on this, I still can go in and change my type, my data, and my design. So all of these things are still available to me. I haven't broken apart any of this. This is basically still a graphic that is a chart. You understand? So I've done an awful lot of modification to this already without even breaking the thing apart. Okay? Eventually, I'm going to break it apart because there's some stuff I'm going to try doing to it that I think will have to happen if I, in order for it to happen, I have to break it apart. But I'm just trying to show you that before you actually break this apart, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do with this to make this look like your own. So once again, go back to my group selection tool. Remember, this is a group. Okay? This whole thing is a group. So in order to go in and access any part of this group independently, you need the group selection tool, and you're going to click on the object, hold the shift key, and click on the object. Oops, and that didn't work. Let me do it again. Click there, hold the shift key, and click there. Okay, so now I got both of those objects, and I don't know, like let's say maybe that one is yellow. I don't know how good this is going to look. Don't look too bad. That's okay. All right, and then communication will be visual by 2018. So again, with the group selection tool, we start off by clicking on that. Hold the shift key down and click on that. And I don't know, maybe this one goes red. Okay, like that. And now we have one tiny little sliver in here. It's really tiny. So I'm going to zoom in on it so I can actually get it. There's my group selection tool. I'm going to click on that one. Hold the shift key down, click on this one. And I don't know what color to make that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll make that kind of like an orange color like that. And you know what? That works. Let's go to the View menu, and let's fit Artboard and Window. And right there is my infographic. Okay? Any questions about that? Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I did?
Yes, I do.
So really, I kept this thing. I kept this thing as a piece of data. It's still a graph, a pie chart, I should say. Still a pie chart. I can come in here if I want right now, and I can go to, I first have to select it. Come in here and go to type, and if I want to, I can change the type. See, it actually will change. There it is. The infographic changes. I don't want that, so again, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to put it back to the way I want it. But I just wanted you to see, you know, that this is still, we're still in the position where we can do this stuff. Okay? And it comes back together for us. All right, now I'm going to go edit undo and edit undo. There we go. And that brings me back to my modifications, because you notice that when I changed the graph, it also threw things out of whack a little bit. Did you notice that?
Kind of.
Yeah, well, it's no big deal. Anyway.
Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. So now I have my basic graph together. There are two things here, approximately 13 million results on each search. So basically what I need to do is I need to create one more little element, and I think I'm going to probably do that, start off right there. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select this copy. Let me get this bit of copy. Let's grab this bit of copy. Copy it. And then let's go Control V, and there we pasted it in. And now I can take this information and I can try to position this information somewhere underneath here like this. Probably what I would do with this information is I would maybe make it a little bit smaller. Let's see what size it is. It is 24 points. So let's go to 8. Let's try 18. See what 18 looks like. That's pretty good. And maybe what I would do is, instead of making it bold condensed, maybe I'll just make it semi-bold. That might be better. Okay, and now let's see what we got. That's something like that. And let's move it up here. It's not really very good right there. Let's see. What would I do with this? Maybe what I could do with this is I could take this. See, and again, this gets into where, you know, you start thinking about customizing your graphic, making your graphic a custom piece of graphics. So maybe I'd move this over like that. And then maybe what I would do here is take this and move this up sort of like that. And then any other type, let's see, any other, click in here and shift enter and maybe do that. There we go. That's not too bad. Now maybe I could take this and I could drag this down just ever so slightly to get it nicely situated. That's beginning to look okay. Now, I can't take this, I don't think. I can't take this. See, the problem is I got this and I have this as part of the same thing. This is all one big graphic. So I am sort of stuck. The only thing I can do here is, let's see if this works. I'm not sure it's going to. If I click on this, if I go to the Align panel, and I'm going to align this to the artboard, I'm going to center align it, and it didn't, yeah, it's not working. See how it doesn't work? See how it's not aligning? It's not aligning, and the reason I think it's not aligning is because it's part of this overall graphic, and it can't work. So at this point, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Object menu, and I'm going to ungroup this. Now, once I do this, remember, you can't ungroup the objects. Objects with graphs cannot themselves be grouped. Wait, what happened here now? Oh, I see. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Got to select the whole thing. There we go. Now go Object, Ungroup. Okay, the selection contains a graph. After a graph is ungrouped, you will no longer be able to access its graph style, its data, or change its graph designs. So you understand what I'm about to do. I'm about to take this, and I'm about to destroy the fact that it was a graph. After I do this, it'll no longer be a graph. I will no longer be able to go in and change data on it or change the type. You understand?
Yes, sir. Mr. Sweeney, I'm not feeling very well. May I go?
If you're not feeling well, yeah, go ahead, and you can watch the recording.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So basically, I'm going to turn this thing into a series of regular objects, and once I do that, I can go in and I can continue modifying this. So I'm going to click yes. Now, when I come over here and click on this, no longer do I have, watch. It's still, it's not, as a matter of fact, it's really not even grouped anymore. See how it's sort of ungrouped? These objects now are individual objects. And this is no longer, if I select the whole thing, I'm no longer able to go in there and change the data or the type. This has been modified, and it is no longer a graph or a chart. So I now have the ability to take these elements, and I'm going to start playing with the elements. So let me select all of this to begin with, and let me just go Object Group, and I've grouped that. And then I'm going to just click on this, hold the Shift key down, click on this, go to the Align panel, and since this whole thing down here is grouped together in one piece, and this is one separate piece, if I click the horizontal align center, you see how that modified this and it made it go along, it centered it a little bit better. Although visually to me it doesn't look centered. I guess it is, but it doesn't look particularly centered to me. I'm gonna let it go though, because that's what it says it did, and I'll buy it for now. I'm just gonna move this over a little bit. So now I have this thing. I have this thing to where I can actually do some interesting stuff with it. So the first thing I have here is I have my pie chart over here. Let me go Object Ungroup, Object Ungroup. So the first thing that I can do here if I wanted to, and see how when I select this, this is still grouped to those. Object Ungroup, I'm going to ungroup them. Yeah, and now, well, that's actually still grouped. Let me go Object Ungroup, and let me go to the orange. Let's see if this is the blue. Yeah. Object Ungroup. I have to ungroup all these things because they're still tied together. See, the yellows are tied together. Object Ungroup. I'm not going to change the colors on these anymore, so I don't have a real big problem doing this at this moment. There we go. And Object Ungroup. All right, so now that I've ungrouped those colors, watch when I click on the blue. See, the blue over here doesn't highlight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select them and go Object Group. So now what I have is I have a group of those colors right there. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because one of the things that I'm thinking I might do with this is I might add a little bit of 3D to this. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy. I'm going to go to the Effect menu. I'm going to go to 3D, and I'm going to go Extrude and Bevel. All right, and I get my 3D Extrude and Bevel, and if I click on Preview, I get that, which is very cool. Let me hit OK for a second so we can actually just take a look at that. So there I got this really interesting 3D model going on. It's interesting, but maybe it's not quite what I'm looking for. So what I would do with this, and this is, I'm done with this, so I'm going to put this aside for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to play around with this Extrude and Bevel. Now there's a way that you have to do this. You're going to go to the Appearance panel right here. And if you take a look in the Appearance panel, this is a very important point. And I don't know whether you guys know anything about extruding and beveling and all this stuff, so I have to explain this to you, assuming you don't. When you create a 3D extruded and beveled object such as this, going up to the Effect menu, 3D Extrude and Bevel, you can see here, Apply Extrude and Bevel and Extrude and Bevel. You never want to touch these again for this object. You don't want to ever do that. If you want to go back in and edit this, you want to go into the Appearance panel, which you can find the window Appearance right there, the Appearance panel, and you're going to click on the 3D Extrude and Bevel. That will bring the panel back up. That will bring your panel back up. And what you can do is you can take your information, you can preview this thing, you can come in here and you can change your rotation. Now, let me go to the off-axis left. And that's very interesting to look at, but I just don't think it's a very valuable look for us. Let's go off-axis right, and it's the same basic problem here. It just isn't really going to do us very much. How about off-axis top? That actually is kind of interesting. I kind of like that. But what I might do is I might actually rotate that down slightly, and I do that like this. I'm actually rotating this thing down and around. See, I can change the angle of this using this little icon here, and I can get a lot of different looks for this just by playing around with this icon and modifying its position until I get something that I like. And that's basically what I'm doing right there. And I think that looks pretty cool. So there you see, again, I have this thing. Now, I also can extrude this thing. Right now, it's got an extrude depth of 50. If I want to fatten it up, I can make it 150. And watch what happens. Look at that. Hit OK. And look what I got. I get something like that, which is pretty wild. So, again, I'm just trying to give you some ideas as to how to maneuver with this thing. Now, there's something else that you can do, which is pretty cool. I'm not exactly sure how well this is going to work. I'm going to give it a shot, and we're going to see how this works here. This may or may not work good. It may be a problem. We'll find out. But if I come in here, and if I click on this with my group selection tool, okay, I can take this, and I can move this piece of the pie out. Look at this. Isn't that nuts? And I can take this pie and I can separate this pie. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I got to go down. There we go. Look at that. I can actually take this pie and I can break this pie apart. And I can more or less create a pie that's kind of like separated out. And you can see all the individual slivers. Doesn't that look neat? Look at that. Isn't that great? I love it. Okay. And you can do the same with the top one. Take the top one and maybe just move. If I can get the top one. Top one's hard to get. Oh, here it is. Got to get it at the bottom, I guess. There we go. That's it. And now I'm going to. There we go. There. That's probably the way I want it. Now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to try to move that into a slightly better position like that. And there, look at that. Isn't that great? That is cool. So I am trying to show you that there are things that you can do with this when it's live data, when it's actually a live infographic, when it's an active pie chart. You can go in and you can modify this and do some interesting stuff But then if you want to move into an area such as what I'm doing right here, where I'm showing you how to take this thing and maybe separate this into a nice big fat pie, slivers of pie like this graphically, you can also do that. And you do that by actually breaking the graphic apart, that is actually ungrouping it, and then ungrouping the thing down until it's all separate elements, and then just regrouping this. I regrouped this as to one element. See how I regrouped this as to one element, and I went into the effect menu and I applied a 3D extrude and bevel to it. And then after I did that, I went into the appearance panel right here, and I went back into extrude and bevel, and I reapplied it. And then I went in there and I changed, like, for instance, the rotation of this. I'm not going to change the rotation of this at this point because I really like the way this looks right now, and I think it's probably where I want it to be. So I am going to leave it alone. But I'm just giving you an idea that I just played around with the rotation of this. This is the easiest way to go, is use this object here. And generally, the top section is what the top is on this thing. I think it's actually the blue section. Well, anyway, this is actually in a good position. And then I changed the extrude depth. I made the extrude depth from, I think it started out as 50, it went to 150. Got a nice big fat one. I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to change anything on it. There's a bunch of other stuff that you could do with this, but these are just some of the basic things that you're going to need to try to do this if this is what you would like to do. That is what your graphic will end up looking like. And I mean, go back to what it looked like at the very beginning, where this was just a flat black and gray pie, and this was gray, and this was running off of here, and this was running off of here, and this wasn't even there. So again, there is your custom pie graph. If you want to do something like that, this is one way to handle it. All right? Again, there's nobody here, so I really am not in much of a position where I can ask if there's any questions or anything. I just hope that everybody's good with it. Again, if you have any questions or any thoughts or any problems of any kind, come and see me Thursday night in Blackboard, and I'll help you out with it. So that's that. Now let's see what's next here. So we got this. Here's my template. All right, so here's the other graph that I was working on. This is the other one that I was working on. And what I did with this is I actually have several layers here. I actually created this bar graph. This is what this bar graph looked like at the very beginning. This bar graph essentially looked like this at the beginning. All right, it now looks like this. Okay. So I basically modified the bar graph somewhat. And I am going to actually play around with this a little bit to try to get this to look a little bit more like the one that I have here. Let me get this thing hidden for a second. I'm going to play around with this a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can make it look a little bit more like that. All right? At least give you an idea of how I approach doing this. All right, so I'm going to hide that. I'm going to show this, and I'm going to hide this for a minute. Now, in this particular case, what I have is I have a made up bar graph. Let me make this non-uniform, and let me make it vertical. Let me make it 200 and see what that does, and hit OK. Yeah, that's not too bad, except that the type gets messed up. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to fix that. But I got my graphics. Let me see if my graphics are the way I want them to be. I probably can fix that by going. Let me try this. Let me try going into here again, and let me go to. Let's go to uniform, and let's make it 200. 200. Or actually, you know what? I want to go vertical 200. There we go. That's probably. Let me hit cancel. Let me go back. Let's go edit, undo, edit, undo, edit, undo scale. There we go. Okay. So let me do this. Let me try. Or you know what? Before I do this, let me do this first. Let me bring this out, and let me take this element right here. That one element right there. Let me move that element up to here. That helps quite a bit. Now I can take this whole thing and I can move it towards the center. Okay, so now I got that. That's a little bit better. I'm going to select all this, and I'm going to make this thing 200. Let's make it 200. 200. See how that looks. That's too big. So let me go back to make it one. Go back to 75. There we go. All right, 75 is probably okay. I think I could work with 75. Let me see how I did this. Let's see, it might be still a little bit big. Yes, it is. So let's go back and let's make this, let's make it 80. That's probably close enough. That'll be all right for our purposes. It's not going to look exactly the same, but it'll be fine. All right, so this is my basic graph. Now, as I was saying to you before, there's a lot I can do with this thing before I break it apart. Eventually, I'm going to have to break it apart. The important thing is that I have all my data correct. So what I want to start off by doing is I want to start off by creating a nice, big, bold headline. The first thing I want to do is I want to make this a 2-line headline. So I want to take that December 31st, 2017, and I want to put that on the next line. Oh, and I want this to be center aligned. So I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to make it center aligned. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do for the font size, I think I'm going to go 24. Let's go to 24, see what 24 looks like. It's probably not big enough. Probably can go bigger, 25. Let's see. That's too big. Let's go to... maybe that's probably not right either. Probably okay to begin with. Now what I want to do here is I want to select that lower line, and I want to make that lower line like maybe 24. Maybe 24. There we go. And let's change this. See what that looks like. That's pretty good right there, except got to get rid of that hyphen. I don't need that hyphen anymore. There we go. So I got by geographic regions. And again, I don't know whether this is exactly the right size or not. Let me see if this is. Oh, yeah, it's much bigger. Internet users in the world. Oh, so it's actually missing part of the line. That's what the problem is. All right, so there's my problem. Let me move this up and let me fix this. So what this should say, world. Let me fix it. Let me click on that, and it's by, and let me hit, and let's go internet, INTERNET, space internet users, USERSINTHE, world, WORLD, world by, geographic by, regions by. Okay, so geographic regions. I changed the title on this. That's what it is. Let me get that fixed. Oops. Come on. There we go. By regions. Okay, and now I think I could make that a little bit bigger. Oh, geez. Delete that. Let me select this. And I think it's probably, let's go to character. Let's go over here. Let's go 35. That's probably good right there. And WOO. And yeah, that's probably pretty good. And I think this, what size was that? It's locked. I'm going to make that, let's see what I make it. First of all, it's italic. So let's make that italic. I want to make it semi-bold italic. And I want to make it 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 34, 35. 35 is probably pretty good. And 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 7, 8, 9, 40. And this is actually December 31st. So I wrote it out, DEC, hold on, DECEMBER, December. There. Okay. So now I have my title, and I can move my title more or less into position right about like that. So now I can come in here and I can hide that layer. There. Okay. So now we've got that. and we're getting somewhere. So what I would do probably with this is I would probably move this stuff over right here. First of all, keep in mind you got to use the group selection tool because this is a grouped object. So I'm going to select this whole thing, and I'm going to move this over just a little bit, and I'm going to move it down just a little bit. Probably like that is good. Okay, and then I'm going to probably take the Oceania. I'm going to select all of those, and I'm going to move them over a little bit as well so that they're not all there. Okay, so now I'm pretty happy with this overall. So what I want to do next is I want to modify some things. First of all, if you take a look at my original here, okay, I changed the numbers across the bottom. Changed them from 0 to 405 to 809 to 1213 to 1618 to 2023 because it actually goes from 0 to 2023. So I actually changed those numbers across the bottom. That's the first thing that I did. So let's go back in and let's do that. Let's make those changes. And if I'm not mistaken, I have those numbers on one of these. I think it's on my other. Here we go. Let's see here. Let's hit save. And let me go to this. Yeah, here we go. I think it's down the bottom. Yeah, there we go. Bar numbers. That's our bar numbers right there, if I'm not mistaken. No, those aren't the bar numbers. Let's see. All right, so how come they're not the same? Give me a second. Let me just look at this. 0 to 25. So let's go and let's make this one. That would be 2023. So this one would be 1618. And then this one would be 1213. And then this one would be 809. And then this one would be 405. 405. And then this one would be 0. And then this one would be gone. Boom. Okay, there we go. And hit enter. There. Okay, so now I have my bar numbers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide this layer, bring this layer forward, and I could do this a number of ways. I could come in here and I could click on this first one right here. That's 0, perfectly fine. Click on this one and change it to 405. 405. And then this one here, I'm going to change to 809. 809. And then I'm going to click on this guy right there, 809, and this is going to be 1213, 1213. And then this guy right here is going to be 1213. This is 1618, 1618. And then of course this will be 2023. There we go. All right, so now I have my numbers. And what I want to do with this is I think I want to run these lines up behind my bar graph. But before I do that, hi, who's there? Galaxy 58. Hi there, how you doing? Say hello. Is that your real name? Do you know how to turn your mic on? Can you speak? I can't hear you. You got your mic on?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So what's your real name?
My name is Laura.
Hi, Laura. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Very good. Yeah, so you missed a lot, but that's not a problem because it's all being recorded. You can watch the recording. I'm glad that you're here. How did you get in? Did you have trouble getting in?
Yes, I couldn't. I kept having trouble with the pasting and everything. So.
Okay, so how'd you get in? Did you use my number, or were you able to get in through the link?
No, I kept having to copy and paste the number.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to send everybody an email about that because there might have been other people trying to get in. But I am glad that you're here. Do me a favor. Next time when you come in and put your name in so I know what to call you. Unless you want me to call you Galaxy.
No.
Laura, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get to watch the recording from last night?
No, I did not yet. I've been pretty busy.
Okay. I'm glad.
After tonight, I will.
Good. What I did so far, just to get you up to speed, sort of, what I did so far is I worked on the actual assignment before this to show how you could go in and build a templated graph, and then how you could customize it. So you could watch that. You could see how I went in and I modified or customized my graph. What I'm doing right now is I have another graph here. This is another one of the graphs that came from the website. It's actually a chart. And I created this. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, so there's the original chart. Look at, there's the original chart right there. If you've ever gone to that site, you've probably seen this chart. This is the same chart, but what I did was I made this chart from that information. My goal was to make it look completely different, to make it my own, customize it, because that's part of the project, is that, you know, instead of just doing a regular old template, you do a template and you do some customizing. So I wanted to show you how far you could go with customizing this. So that's what I did. And now I'm going through the process right now of doing kind of like a step-by-step of how I did the customization, okay? So that's give you an idea of where I'm heading with this, all right?
Okay.
All right. So basically, one of the things, and I'm gonna bring this up. I think I'm going to select this whole thing. It's actually still a right now. It's still a live chart or a live graph, and I haven't taken it apart yet and made it just graphic shapes. And you'll see if you watch the recorded video how the reason I'm leaving it as a live chart is so I could go in and edit things. Like, for instance, I could go in and edit the data, or I could change the chart type right now. Once I ungroup this, they become just a bunch of graphic shapes. So I haven't gotten to that point yet. Right now, I'm just in the process of kind of fooling around with, you know, designing this thing. Okay, so, and this is not what you have to do. This is just one of the ones that I did. I'm trying to show you a few ways that this can be handled. The one that I did before this is the actual data that you're going to use when you create your chart. So if you pay close attention to the first chart that I did, that'll be what you have to work on for your assignment. This is just kind of like a bonus because I have, you know, about 45 minutes to kill, and I thought I'd show a little bit more about how to play with charts. All right?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to bring my color palette back out again, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, play around with color. So I got a bunch of these bars here, which are different sizes and relate to the different sizes, the data that we have down here. And these are their associated callouts. So what I'm going to do is, and this is a very important thing, when you're working with a live chart like this, it's a group. So if I deselect this and reselect it, see the whole thing? It's a group. And as long as it's in a group, it's going to stay as a chart. The moment I ungroup it and start ungrouping these things, then it's all gone and it's just a bunch of random shapes. So I'm not ready to ungroup them yet. Right now I'm trying to see how much work I can actually get done with this before I actually ungroup it. That's the whole point. All right, so I'm going to use the group selection tool, because the group selection tool allows me to go in and select areas within a group and highlight them so I can do things to them. Okay, I don't know what I just did here. Okay, here we go. All right, so hold down the Shift key, and I'm selecting that and that because they relate, those two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change their color. Okay? Then I'm going to click on the next one. Again, with the group selection tool, I'm going to click on the Europe, hold down the Shift key, and click on this is the Europe over there. And what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to come in and I'm going to put, oh, I don't know, like maybe that color right there. That's fine. Let's go to Africa. See, and again, what I'm doing is I've done this several times, so I kind of know what aligns with what, but I'm also going by the colors. You see the colors? That color there, hold down the Shift key, matches with that color right there. All right, and I'm going to throw a color into that. And then Latin America, look, Latin America is a nice dark one. Hold down that, and I don't know, maybe I'll put that color into there. So far, it looks pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So the North America, hold down the Shift key, click on this one, and I don't know, maybe we'll go with a nice green color right there. I don't know. I think maybe that green's better. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. Middle East, click on the Middle East. That's a nice dark one. We know it's that one right there. So those two match up. What color do I want to put? I don't know. Maybe I'll put a gray in. How about a gray? That'd be all right. Put a gray in there. That's okay. I don't mind a gray. Hold down the shift key and let's get that little last one right there. And what color, what color, what color, what color? Yellow. I didn't use a yellow, did I? How about that one? Yeah, that's good, right? Nice and visual, but the colors are good, aren't they?
Yes.
So basically, so far, what I've done is I've realigned a couple of things, changed the size of the font, readjusted the size of the font, repositioned it, and I've recolored my bars. So that's so far what I've done here. And again, I'm going to continue playing with this. So what I thought I would do, what I thought would be nice, would be, let's go and drag a guide out. I'm going to bring a guide out, and I think I'll bring the guide out to about, well, let's see, maybe I can make it right to there is good. Right about there. Let's go to the view menu and go to guides and show the guides. There, and there's my guide. All right, so now I'm going to close this because I'm done with the color. I'm going to start off by zooming in a little bit here, okay? Now, what I want to do is I'm going to start changing the shape of some of these lines. I actually want these lines to run all the way up. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using the group selection tool, I'm going to use the direct selection tool. Do you know anything about the direct selection tool? Do you know what the direct selection tool is supposed to do? Every shape has line segments in Adobe Illustrator. Every shape has line segments and has anchor points. Now, this is a line segment right here, see? And if I click on that, can you see that there's a little anchor point there?
Oh, yes.
And there's a little anchor point right there.
Okay.
Now, this tool right there enables me to click on just that anchor point. And now do you see how that one's open and that one's like a solid blue?
Oh, yes.
That solid blue means that it's selected. And what I can do is I can take the down arrow and I can reduce the length of that line segment, which is what I want to do, to about there. Now what I want to do is, watch this. What I want to do is I want to take all these other lines down here. See all these little tabs, these little lines right down there? What I want to do is I want to very carefully come across here and I want to select all the anchor points on just the top. You see how the little top ones are selected and not the bottom ones?
Yes.
Can you see that? And did you see how I did it? I did it by just drawing a little bit of a line. I sort of marqueed and I went and just touched the very top of all those lines. And by doing that, the little top anchor points got selected and the bottoms did not. Do you see what I did?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to use the up arrow, and I'm just going to up arrow this until it goes up. I'm going to bring them up to that line. Watch, and you see they're behind everything else. I'm going to keep bringing it up until I bring it up to the same position as the other line. Give it a second because I'm getting there. One more. There we go. Now you see what I did. I've actually created all those lines right there. Now, the other thing that I did was this. I clicked here, and I clicked on that bottom line, and I deleted that bottom line. Now, you see, can't clear the objects. Objects within certain groups inside a group graphs cannot be removed from the group. Okay, so what is that telling me? That's telling me that this step that I'm trying to do is something that I cannot do until I take this and make it a series of graphic shapes. So that's something that I will do in a little bit, because right now I don't have my graphic correct. Okay, so I'm just going to hit OK for the time being. Now what I'm going to do is, with the group selection tool, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select all of those lines very carefully. Now this is the group selection tool, so that selects all those little lines. It doesn't select just the anchor points, it selects all those lines. And what I want to do with them is I want to make them gray. I don't want them to be black. I want them to make them gray. So let me make them gray. Come over here and hit OK. There. And now if you deselect them, you'll see that they're all nice gray. and they're probably a little bit dark. I'd actually probably still like them a little bit lighter. So let me do it one more time. Hold on, I got to get the right tool. Let me try it one more time and make them just a tiny bit lighter, because I do want it to be sort of light. I want them to be just like a whispery kind of color. What I'm doing essentially is I'm taking the art that came out of a, there you go, that's much better. I'm taking the art that came out of a template and I'm turning it into a custom piece of art. And that's what one of the things that you're supposed to be doing with this. Okay, so there it is. That's where I am so far. Now I want that line in the bottom to go away. The only way I'm going to make that happen is to select this thing and go Object, Ungroup. Now, just like before when I was working on the pie chart, you weren't here to see that, but when I was working on the pie chart, I broke this thing apart and I got this exact same dialog box. What this is telling you is that the selection contains a graph. After a graph is ungrouped, you will no longer be able to access its graph styles, its data, or change its graph designs. If you go back, Lori, right?
Laura.
Laura. If you go back, Laura, and if you take a look at the video recording that happened just before you got here, you'll see how I could change the graphs. I can change them from a bar graph to a column graph to a pie chart. I can do all those things. I'm not doing it here, but once I make this selection ungrouped, I will no longer be able to make those changes. So, and this will essentially turn these into just a bunch of shapes. So I'm going to hit yes, and now they're just a bunch of shapes. So I can come in here now with this, and I can click on this line right there, and I can now delete that line. Okay, so now you can see, let me go to the view menu, and let me go guides, and let me hide my guides so we can get a look at this. Now you can see what my graph is beginning to look like. I want to just show you something. I'm going to move this thing down slightly. Okay, what I want to show you is, oops, let me grab this over just a bit like that. I want to come up here and I want to show you, I think it's there. Nope, it is, where is it? There it is. Okay, take a look. That is what the original graph looked like. That is what the original graph looked like. Look at my graph. You see how much different my graph looks? See how much different it looks? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about customizing a graph. I took this information from this graph. That's really all I did, was I took this information from this graph, I brought it in and made a template out of it, and the template came out very bland looking. It's all just black. As a matter of fact, this is what the template looks like, just so that you could see it. Let me hide this for a second, and let me go to the pie chart template. That's what a basic template looks like. That's what you get when you make a basic template. You get all black and white, and you get just randomly placed objects, and the sizes are not, very well organized. That's where you, as the creative designer, come into making something that looks like this. So I start off with something that looks like this. This is my information. This is the stuff that I want in my chart. I set up my chart, and then I build my chart to end up looking something like this. And that helps you. Okay?
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not done with this yet. As a matter of fact, I believe this is incorrect. So I'm going to fix this. First thing I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to select this guy right there, just those two ends, and I'm going to move that over because it's got to touch that line. There we go. Now that's correct. Oh, that is so creepy. Jesus. All right, now, so I have, let's see, I have a few more things that I need to do with this. I have 2 more bits of copy that I want to put into my, there they are right there. All right, so what I want to do is I want to come in here. Come on. Everything's in the way. There we go. All right, I'm going to select this. Copyright. Why didn't I get the rest of my copy here? Copyright. Hold on, let me see what that says. Bar graph. So it's copyright. For some reason, part of this disappeared on me. I don't know exactly why. Let me fix that. Comma. Copyright 2018, comma, and it's MINIWATTS, Miniwatts, MARKETING, GROUP. Okay, there it is, Mini Watts Marketing Group. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. I'll select that copy, just like that. Copy it. All right. I am going to get rid of this, and I'm going to come in here at my type tool and control. Actually, that's way too big. Let me fix that. Let me go into my character, and let's make that, oh, I don't know, like make it 12, 14. Let's make it 14, and let's make it regular. Myriad Pro regular. That should do for a start. And let me go Control V. Boom. There you go. Okay. So there's my info, but my info is in center alignment, which I don't want. I want it to, let's go to paragraph, and let's make that left aligned. And let's go to the character palette. It's 14. Let's go 14 over 18. That's much better. Okay, that's it. That's probably pretty good. And let me just take this copy, and let me move this copy somewhere in here, like maybe there. That's not too bad, like that. Okay, so now I'm putting all my data together. And again, I don't, it's probably not exactly the way I did it before, but it's close. And then what I did, I wanted to add this one other line right here, millions of users right there, July 2017. So how I did this was I create another type line right here. Okay, and I'm going to copy it. Copy, and Control V, paste it. There we go. Millions of users, 2017. That, I think what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to make that bold. Regular, let's go to bold. Yeah, that's good. And let's go to optical. See, I'm just doing some, I don't know how much you know about Illustrator. Did you do much work with Illustrator? Are the things that I'm showing you how to do familiar to you at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so basically what I'm doing is some formatting. I'm just doing some formatting on text is really all it is. I've decided that I'm using Myriad Pro as the font because I think it's a very nice, clean-looking font. And I set the size of it to 14, and I set the kerning to optical, and I'm going to actually track this thing a little bit more. I'm going to make it like 25 right there. Is probably pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this thing somewhat over, like maybe into about there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get a rectangle tool, and I'm going to create a rectangle sort of like this. Like that's probably good. And object, arrange, send to back. And then I'm going to select the type, and I'm going to make that type white instead of black. And now let's see what we got. We have that. Pretty cool. Now I'm going to come in here, zoom in so I can take a look at it. And I think what I need to do is I need to just move the type down a touch and over a touch. I think that probably looks pretty good. Now there's one little problem, and that is that that line is in front of that. You see it? In front of the black. By selecting it, I'm going to go object, arrange, send to back. Now let's go view, fit artboard and window, and there you have it. Look at that. That is my design. Now the important thing to keep in mind is all the data that you see here, all the information that you see here, and right off of that chart right there.
Okay.
What's that vibrating? Huh. All that data came right from this, from that chart right there. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can take information from any chart or any bunch of information that you might have, and you can build yourself a regular old template, something just very plain and very ordinary, very much like what you see here. Okay? And
okay.
by doing some work with it, you can turn it into something that is very special looking and very personal and very much you as a designer, just by using, you know, the basic principles that you've learned and the techniques that I showed you here. Okay? So do you have any questions about what I've shown you so far? Does it seem like something you can handle?
Yeah, it looks like I
Intimidating?
can do it.
Is it intimidating?
A little bit, yeah.
All right.
A little
Well,
bit.
like I say, the one that I'm working on right now, you don't have to do. The one that you have to do, if I'm not mistaken, is this guy right here. Okay? And I demonstrated exactly how I did this. Now, again, you don't have to make it look exactly like the way I made mine look. I did this because I wanted to show you some things about Adobe Illustrator, and I'm not going to go back in and do it over. I did record all this, and you can go in and watch the recording and see how I made this really cool looking segmented pie. It's actually a lot easier than you might think it is. It's by using the Adobe 3D effects right here, okay? And I actually showed how I did it, so you can watch and you can, you know, go in and try to pull off something like that yourself, which I'm absolutely sure you could do if you give it a shot. All right, so so there. Now, the other thing I have here is, let me go to my templates. I got a bunch of stuff over here that I wanted to show you. So here is my graphics. These are my graphics. Let me unlock this. Show you something kind of interesting. So there's my graphic. Now this here, see, if you take a look, this here, watch what happens. This is an actual pie chart, and this is a live pie chart. And this chart has nothing but the actual numerical data into it, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I click on data, you see all this chart is made up of three numbers, 90%, 40%, and 84%. So this would be like the 90%, this would be the 84%, and this would be the 40%, okay? Now, what I wanted to show you here is that if you knew what you were doing, you could actually create this exact same chart very easily. And I'll show you how to do this. You see that little center point right there?
Yes.
When you create objects, I'm going to create another circle just so that you could see this. I'm going to create a circle. You can show these circles with that center point. And that center point's a very helpful thing. So if I delete that, if I come in here and select this, and if I come over to my guides, which are my rulers over here, if I click off of my rulers, I'm clicking, holding, and I'm dragging the guide out, I can place that guide right in the middle of that circle like that. Now, if I go to the View menu and go to Guides and show my guides, there is my little guide. Now, if I want, I can move that over and get that right on that guide. See how I got that nicely centered on that guide?
Yes.
Yeah, and now I'm going to come here on the top and I'm going to drag another guide. I'm going to put that guide in the middle right like that. And there you go. So now I have my two guides out there, and I can go to my View menu and go to Guides, and I can lock my guides. Now the guides are locked, so I can't really interfere with them. They're locked in. Now what I want to do is I want to create that segmented shape here. And I'm showing you how I did it right here. I created a series of lines, okay? And I used my rotate tool at these angles right there to give me my positioning. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it apart and reassemble it into that shape. Okay? So you kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, watch what I do here. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get my line segment tool. All right? I'm going to change my stroke, not my fill, my stroke. I'm going to change it. Go to RGB. Why am I not getting, there we go. RGB, and let me click on this, go to RGB, and let me make it red, because red's a good bright color to see. So I now have a stroke of red on my line, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm just going to drag a straight line right down through that circle, just like that. Okay, now watch when I deselect it. You see my little line there? I should make it thicker for you so that you can see this. Let's go to the stroke weight, and let's make it 2. Let's make it there. That should be big enough to see. There you go. You can see that. So I select that line. Now, here's the trick. The trick is that I am going to rotate that line 2 times. One of them is going to rotate to the, and the only reason I know these numbers is because I spent time earlier this afternoon figuring them out. I actually figured out the numbering earlier. And it's something that, you know, once you know how to do this, you could go in and very quickly figure these things out. It's not so terribly difficult to do. But I've already done it, and I want to show you the basic method how to do this. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to double-click on the Rotate tool. And I'm going to get my Rotate tool, and as you can see here, it automatically sends this thing out to -45, which is not the right angle. What I want is, I want this to be 34.28. Okay? And now what I want to do is, see, it's already set to preview. If I deselect it, it comes back up. If I hit preview, it goes to the point. See it?
Yes.
That's the point. Now, if I hit copy, what it's going to do is it's going to create a duplicate of that line in that position. Does all that make sense to you?
Yes.
So if I hit copy, look. So now you see I have two lines. I got the original line in the original position, and I've created a new line that goes over to there. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm going to, again, come over here. Oh, actually, I think I'm going to go back to starting with my center line again. Double-click again, and this time I'm going to change it to -29. -29. And I'm going to deselect preview and hit preview. And you see what it did? It threw the line over to there. Just like that. See it?
Yes.
And again, I'm going to hit copy because I need to have these lines. Now, there it is. There are my 3 lines. And I have a circle back here. All right? I have this oval shape back here, and I got these lines. Now, what I want to do is I want to use my, if I got them here, let's see if it's out. Pathfinder, I mean my window, Pathfinder. There it is, Pathfinder. It is out. There's my Pathfinder panel. Now, what this Pathfinder panel can do is it can take shapes, and it can get these shapes to interact with each other. So what I've done is I've selected those 3 lines, and I've selected that background circular shape, okay?
Okay.
Right, so if I wanted to, I could combine them. I could minus the front. The object in the front would be minus. These are not the ones that I want. The one that I want is right here. It's called divide. And what this one does is it takes all of these objects and it causes them to all interact with each other, dividing everything up. In other words, it's like slicing up a pizza. If that's the best way I can describe it to you. It's like slicing a pizza. Are you with me?
Yes.
I hit divide, and now look, that is all sliced up. I'm going to go to Object, Ungroup, and I have, watch this. I have that slice, I have that slice, I have that slice, that one, and that one. Okay? So now what I want to do is I want to start recombining the slices. So what I'm going to do is, I know that I need to make that shape. See that shape right there? That big sweeping black shape?
Yes.
That is made by these 2 shapes right there. That one and that one. So by taking those 2 together and clicking on Unite, I now have one shape. Now I have these 2 shapes down here. The 2 smaller shapes, I want that wedge right there. I combine those 2. And then I want these guys up here. And I'm going to combine them. Now watch what happens. This is going to stay black. This here is going to go to a light gray. Look at that. And then I come over here, click on this one, and that one is going to be that medium. And check it out. Look at that. I've actually recreated that shape. Go to the View menu and go to Guides and hide the guides. And you see how I've actually recreated that shape?
Yes.
Think you could do that?
Yes.
Good. All right. I got another one. Here's another one. Let's go. We've still got plenty of time here, so let me go into here. This is another one that's kind of interesting. This here was a graphic that I used. I used this graphic in my discussion. This is a piece that I produced, and I just wanted to show you how to go about doing this. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're just going to come over here, and you're going to make yourself, hold the Shift key down, make yourself a big circle, okay? And that's what this circle is. And the other thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a straight line and make sure that the line hits dead in the center, Okay?
Okay.
Right. None of it's hard. So basically what I'm going to now do is I'm going to select the line. I don't want to select the circle. Leave the circle alone for now. Select the line. And once again, I'm going to come over here to my rotate tool. I'm going to double click on the rotate tool. And this time what I want to do is I want to set it to be 45. I want it to be a 45-degree angle. 45. And then I want to copy that. So now I have my first slice. See it? There's my first slice. I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to, 45 again and copy it. And now I've got my second slice. I got one more to go, and I'm just continuing in this direction. So double click, 45, copy, and look it. I've got all of my slices. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See that?
Yes.
So now I've actually got everything I need to segment that circle to make it look like that right there. So what I'm going to now do is, let me get this out of the way for a second. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select everything, I'm marquee everything. And then I'm going to come back over to my Pathfinder, and I'm going to divide that up. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to select that one right there. I got to ungroup it, object ungroup. I don't have to ungroup it. I could just really use the group selection tool, but I ungrouped it. Select that, use my eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to sample that color right there, and now that color goes in there. And I'll do the next one. I'll come over here and I'll click on this guy right here. And I will sample that color right there, and now that color's in there. And then the next one, I'm really just copying the colors that I already have in my sample over here. I already worked those colors out, so just trying to show you how to get this thing done. And then I'm going to click on this guy. I'm sorry, wrong one. Click on this, and then come over and get that orange. And I'm just going to keep selecting my shapes and working my way around until I get all my colors into my graphic. I got 2 more to go. Right there. And there's the last one. And right there. Now, I have this guy in the middle here. I think it might be a little bit big. It's actually pretty good. Geez, I really hit that right on the money. It's pretty close. That'll do it. I think it's probably got to be let me make it 101. Make it 101%. 101. And hit OK. There you go. That should do it. Isn't it? Yep, that's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to bring this thing over here. Whoops. Geez. There we go. Bring this over here and put it in the middle. All right. And then I'm going to line it up with the middle. Just like that. That's probably pretty good. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make that default black and white. I'm going to remove the stroke so that there's no stroke. And now I have that graphic right there. See that?
Yes.
So that's something else that you could do. Now this, if I were to put color behind this, let me show you what happens here. If I put color behind this, let me make this thing black. Let me make it black so that you can see what I'm talking about. So if I take this thing, go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, that's what your graphic looks like. You have a white center, and you have those nice colors right there. Now, if I wanted to, what I could do is, let me go Object, Lock, Selection. If I wanted to, I could select all of these objects right there, and I could go Object, Clipping, or Compound Path Make, sorry, Compound Path Make. Oops, Control Z. You know what? I think I need to group this first. Let me see here. Object, Group. Let's see if that works now. Might work better. Object, Clipping, or Compound Path Make. Undo. All right, you know what? Then the other way to do this would be to do this. Click on Divide, and then I can just come in here very carefully. Whoops, Control Z, and Object Ungroup. And what I could do is I could just come in here and select that, and see what I'm doing is I'm removing that centerpiece. Okay? So that's another way to go. I'm going to go edit, undo, because I don't want that. Undo, clear, edit, undo, okay, and edit, undo, ungroup, and edit, undo, divide. I don't want to do that. The reason I don't want to do this is because I'm going to show you how to turn this into this graphic right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn that into a 3D graphic and move that 3D graphic around as well. So let's go to object, unlock all. I can get rid of that, delete it. There we go. And writing skills. So let me click on this. Let me see what size this is. Let me cheat and just take one of these things. Let's go edit, copy. Yeah, edit, paste. There we go. And now, where did it paste? Control Z, edit, paste. Where did it paste? Oh, there it is. Where is it? There we go. Let me try it again. Edit, copy.
Yeah.
Edit, paste. There. Okay. Move this over here. Writing skills. Right there. Okay. So object, arrange, bring to front. Edit, cut. Edit, paste in front. There. All right. So there's my first bit of copy right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and I'm just going to move this over to here like this, and I'm just going to change the wording on this to be usability. Usability. Okay, now what I would do is I would do the same thing. I would just continue copying and pasting this and working my way all around until I've built all of this. Okay? I don't want to do it because obviously I think you can figure that out, right? After you get the copy, you can do all this. All right, now that I have this thing, though, I have this thing grouped. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to show you one more time. Take this, and it's going to be black. Let me just show you what I got here. Again, let's go object, arrange, send to back. Okay, so you see I got my information design, right? And I got this like nice white center. So I'm going to hit delete. Now, this graphic actually looks pretty good the way it is right now. But one of the things that you might consider doing with it, since it's a group, you might go up to the effect menu and you might go 3D, and maybe you'll go, again, extrude and bevel. And if you click on preview, you get, come on, there it is. Now watch when I hit OK and deselect it. There you get this nice 3D modeled graphic. If I want to, I can come in here and let me get my appearance panel open, select it again, and double click to bring it back into this, and click on it one more time to select it. And I can change my angle from off-axis front. Let's go to off-axis top, and it'll change its orientation. Then if I want, I can just take this thing and I can start dragging this thing down. This thing is a slightly harder graphic to render. See, it's going to start choking when I try to render this thing, but there it is. It'll work out ultimately. Now keep bringing it down until I get something that I like. There we go. There. And it looks like it's also upside down, and it's also giving me a little bit of a reading problem. You see a little bit of reading problem in there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's rendering. It's giving me a little trouble rendering the thing because it's complicated. So I'm going to hit cancel, but you get the general idea. You can do these things like this. Let's go to template, and let's see what else we got in here. These are very cool. These are very cool. What I did with this is, again, let's see if any of these things are live. None of them are live. I think they're all, yeah, they've all been modified. So what I did here was I went in, go back and see if I have one. Yeah, I got this guy right here, right? Yeah, data. Okay. So what I did here was I created a different form of data with this. Let me come in and let me go data. And what I did here was instead of making them 90, 40, and 84, I went 90, and then I went 40, and I went 84, 84, and I removed this, and I removed this, and let's see if I get the three of them. There we go. There we go. There it is. So I end up with three. See what I end up with? I end up with three little circles as opposed to the pie. Okay, so this is basically 90%, this one is 40, and this is 84. So that's another way that we can work with these shapes. So what I did was, let me bring this over here because this is kind of interesting. Let me copy this. Let's go edit, copy. And let me go over here to the last one. And let's see if I move this out of the way. Move this out of the way, there we go. And move this out of the way. And let me go edit, paste. Boom. Where did it paste? Edit, paste. Oh, come on. Where'd you paste? On the regular page there? Yeah, I guess that's where it went. Jeez. Nothing ever works right. Here we go. Drag it over. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to ungroup it. Object, ungroup it, which makes it, oh, actually I got to close this, accept it. There we go. Object, ungroup, ungroup, there. And there we go. So now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to open up my swatches. Let's see where my swatches go. Right there. Here's my swatches. And I think I'm going to just color these guys. Colored that one. I think I went with the orange on that one. And it should be the fill, not the stroke. There we go. And then this guy here is going to be yellow. All right. And again, let me bring that. Here we go. And then that, let's make that like red. There we go. Okay. So now I got these three shapes, and let's go object ungroup so we can move them around. Object ungroup. There we go. Okay, so I got these three shapes. There we go. Oh, and I also want to remove the strokes from them. Don't want any strokes on them. There we go. Okay, and they're still object ungroup. Let's see if they're ungrouped yet. There we go. So now I can take these objects, and what I can do with these objects is I can render them. So if I go to my effect and go to 3D extrude and bevel, I can apply this, and I can take this thing and I can rotate this around, and I can get this thing into the position that I want, which is something like that. I'm trying to make it look as straight as possible, and I'm not going to worry about it being perfect. There we go. I'll tip it down just a bit. Yeah, that's good right there. Hit OK. So now this is 74, 14, and 3. Let me make note of that. Hold on. So it's 74, negative 14, and 3. Okay. Now let's do the same thing with this. Click on this, and let's go Effect, and let's go. Actually, let's try Apply. Yeah, that's good. And now click on this, and then Effect, Apply. Okay. So now I got these three objects. So what I want to do with these objects is I want to sort of stack them together. So I'm going to bring them in, and I'm kind of going to put them together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange their positioning. So this one here, go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. There. So now I got these three shapes. All right. So if I were going to make a pie chart, a custom chart, where I would have this showing a percentage, and this a percentage, and this a percentage, which is what I did. You know what I mean? You saw that my chart, right, when I did them. Let me go back. Yes. Let me go back over here because it's over here. When I come over to this one, where did it go? I guess I used it. All right. Anyway, there were the numbers 90, what was it, 90, 40, and 84, something like that. So now what I can do is I can take each one of these things individually, and I can come in here, and I can go to my Appearance panel, and I can double-click on this and move it up a little bit, and let's hit Preview. And I can do things like, for instance, I can modify the lighting on this so I get a better lighting. See, I'm moving the lighting around a little bit to get a better lighting. Get that? If I wanted to, I can even add a light. so I can get a nice bright hot spot like that. See how I'm doing that?
Oh, yes.
Kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, that is cool.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this thing. So what I think is, I think I'll leave this one set to 50. That will be my 50. So I'm going to hit OK on this one. Then I'm going to select the next one here, which is the green, the yellow one, and I'm going to double click on that guy and hit preview. And this one I'm going to set the extrude depth to, let's try 150. 150. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my light. You see how that made that bigger?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to adjust my light on this one. And I think maybe I'll add a light as well on it, because I think that's kind of a cool thing to do and bring it over like that. Although maybe I think the light intensity is a little bit too bright on that, so I'm going to knock it down. See how I'm knocking that thing down a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit lighter. And then highlight intensity, I think I'm going to drop it down a little bit as well. Nope, that's not the one. Ambient light? No, it's highlight size that's there. Maybe that's it. Yeah, that's it. All right, let me bring it down quite low. And then let me bring this back up a little bit. It's probably highlight size. Bring it down. That's probably pretty good. I'm not exactly happy with it. It's not exactly doing what I want it to do. It's a little bit extreme. I'm not going to worry about it. Hit OK, and then I'm going to click on this guy right here, and this one I'm going to make actually smaller. I'm going to come in here, and again, I'm just playing with these things. It's the actual size of the buttons that I'm most concerned about, and they're working just fine. You know, I'm just trying to play around with different ways of looking at how to create these graphics. Hit there, and then maybe because this is further back, I'll move it up. So in other words, that'll come up like this. So I get something like that. There you go. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can select all of these guys. Select this guy here, and let me just throw this away. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Let me get rid of that. Come on. There we go. And let me get rid of that. Okay, so we got those three back. And then, you know, you could play around with something like this, where you could actually stack them up in a totally different way. Like you could stack them up like this. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to go Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel, and hit Preview. And I'm going to rotate this guy around like this. The whole thing comes into rotation on this, you know, how you rotate this guy. That actually, I think I actually like that angle right there. So I think I'm going to try working with that angle. So let me try this. Let me try negative 19, 64, and negative 17. I'm writing these numbers down so that when I actually do this, I can go back in and I can play with those numbers. So hit OK. Now select this guy right here, and let's go Effect, Apply, Extrude and Bevel. So I can even do it that way. And then let's go Effect, Apply, Extrude and Bevel. And then what I do with this thing is I actually take these guys and I position them, sort of stack them up. Look at that. And go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. See? And I end up with something similar to this. Okay? So all of these are possible ways that you can take basic information that comes from a chart and turn them into graphics, you know, that you could throw numbers off of. All these different possibilities. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you a little bit about how powerful Adobe Illustrator is. So really the bottom line is this. Your assignment for the week is this guy right here. Now, does it have to be a segmented pie like this? No, it doesn't. But I did show you how to do it. And I think I did it slowly enough and carefully enough that you should be able to follow it if you want to try your hand at making this happen. I really think you'll enjoy working with 3D once you get the hang of it. So it's something you might want to consider. The most important thing for you to understand is that what you're going to get here is you're going to get a template. That's the key. The first thing you'll do is you'll set up a template. The template is basically going to look like black and white graphics. It's not going to be very attractive. Then what you're going to do is you're going to use your direct selection tool or your group selection tool to select the objects that you've created in your chart or your graph. And for the information, let me just go back one more time real quickly. File open. And it is statistics. Yeah, this is, except for the fact that I highlighted some of the copy. I made some of the copy bold myself. See that copy right there? That's the copy that you're going to get, that you're going to have to make a chart or a graph out of. Okay, my feeling is, based on the information that's there, based on this information, your best bet would be to make either a pie chart or this guy right here, which is this is a column graph and this is a bar graph, or the pie graph. Now, personally, I think the pie graph is good, but either one of those two would also work well with this information. And then really what you're going to do is you're going to take the template piece, which will be very basic, black and white, and you're going to use the group selection tool to select the objects, move them around. The text elements will be resized, or maybe you'll put different fonts into it. You'll go in and you'll select the areas of your pie, and you'll refill them with color. You'll modify the layout and make something that looks a little bit more like what you see there. Now, do you have any questions about any of this? Because we're pretty much done for the night.
No, I don't think so.
No? Did I throw you for a loop with this stuff, or do you think it's clear enough that you got some sense of what's going on?
I think it's clear enough. I kind of know a little what you was doing, so.
Good. So when you actually get into doing this, this is the one that you want to focus on, and this is at the very beginning of the session. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so very good. I will see you next week. And if you have any questions, email me, send me, or give me a call, or come and see me Thursday night from, 9 o'clock until midnight Mountain Time. Friday morning from 9 a.m. until noon Mountain Time, or Saturday from 7 to 12 p.m. Mountain Time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, okay.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.